Hello, everyone. My name is Nino, and let's get started. I'm going to introduce you to our application, PowerCode Connect application, the online timesheet submission, one of the options that you have in order to submit your timesheet to us. And also, we're going to talk about the paper timesheet, just to cover some basics there, just the general information of how you should fill out your paper timesheet if that's what you're going to do. So first, and then I'm going to show you the application and show you like live how you're going to enter your timesheet, how to log in, your credentials, and all that. Okay, so let's start with the paper timesheet. That's the first thing that I want to show you tonight. But first, I want to tell you that online timesheet submission, you can call our customer service if you need to, if you decide to go through that process. So we can provide you all the information that you need in order to have access and register in our Connect application. Okay, paper timesheet submission. This is how the paper timesheet looks like. Basically, the timesheet is divided in 3 sections. The section A is the first part over here, section B, and this part right here in section C. I'm going to show you each one of them, and that way you can see it right here. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. You see the first section, the section A, is basically your personal information. Second section, it's basically where you are entering your shifts, your time in, time out. And the third section, basically your authorization, your approval for this timesheet. You see signatures there, dates, and all that. All right, so let's see the section A. Section A is this part, and I'm going to explain a little bit each section and how you should fill out those fields there. Line 1, participant name. This is the name of the participant receiving services. Please print the participant's name clearly in this line. Please include first name, last name. Remember that this is a big word, right? That sometimes could be another person with the same name, same last name. So please include first name, last name. Second line, participant ID, 6 digits. You see here. 6 digits PALCO ID. The ID can be found on the PALCO's welcome or good to go notification. Once you have completed all your enrollment, all your paperwork is completed and good, then we're going to send you a letter through an email or regular mail, and you will be receiving that letter, and that letter will include your 6 digits ID. So that's what you need to put here. So this is the participant name, participant ID, basically the member of the program. Line 3, personal care attendant or personal care assistant is the person who provides the services. Basically is the worker. Please, you have to include first name, last name. And line 4 is the personal care assistant ID, identification number, which is the same idea with the participant ID, 6 digits PALCO ID. And you will be receiving this number in your good to go notification or welcome letter notification as well. And then the next section is the 5A, service period. From basically is the beginning of the pay period, and the section 2 is the end of the pay period. What I'm going to ask you in this particular section is you have to fill this section based on your payroll schedule. And I'm going to show you your payroll schedule, which is just a section of your payroll schedule over here. You see, with us, you know that your first payroll will start next year from January 1st to January 1st to January 5th. So that's what you need to put in your paper timesheet. The next pay period will be January 6th to January 19th. So please fill out that section, the pay period section, based on these dates that you see here. The first date, end date, start date, end date. So that's what you need to key in this section over here. 5B is a service code. You don't have to enter, you don't have to type anything here because it's a pre-filled timesheet. Depends on the service type that you are going to provide. That's the timesheet that you have to select to use. Like usually, you're going to use daily timesheet. So that's the section A. Let's go with the section B, which is this part over here. Section B, basically, it's the area where you can show your time in, time out, all your shifts in a day. So as you see, you have to know that your payroll will be in a bi-weekly basis. So obviously you have 2 weeks. So you will see week 1, week 2, and every week will start with Sunday through Saturday. That's your work week, your overtime week. So you also have your days here. You see your days. And for each day, you're going to have the ability to enter 2 shifts, as you see here. Like for Sunday, there's you can enter your shift 1 over here, your shift 2 over here, just like we have here on Monday. The first shift that we are showing in this example for Monday starts at 8 a.m., that's your time in, to 12 p.m., your time out. And then the third column, the hours, is where you can enter, where you have to type your total hours for that shift. Same for each day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday if you work those days. So at the bottom over here, you will see the total hours per week. Like the week 1, we are showing here that the person over here provided 40 hours in the week 1 and 40 hours in week 2. Some recommendation over here. Please fill out all the boxes that you see here, like 8 a.m., 0800 a.m., or 8:15, 8:20, 8:18. I don't know. It's on you, your time in. Make sure to fill out the small circle over here, if it's a.m. or p.m. Hours first, and then minutes. You have to select if it's a.m. or p.m. and your total hours here. Another recommendation, make sure the total hours you are providing here actually matches with your time in and time out. Like here, 8 to 12, 4 hours. If you type 40 hours over here, well, your timesheet might be rejected because, as you see here, your total is incorrect. So make sure you have your total, your correct total hours over here, and same for the total hours per week. The total hours should match the whole hours that you have here daily. Okay, so that's the section B. Let's go and see the section C. Excuse me. Let's see the section C. The section C is for you to prove that you have reviewed the timesheet, that you have shown your timesheet to your employer, and that your employer authorized that timesheet. You know that by signing your timesheet, you are authorizing us to process that timesheet or pay for that timesheet. Okay? So in the section here, 6A, the personal care assistant signature is required. If you don't post your signature there, your timesheet might be rejected and your payment will be delayed. your date is the date when you have reviewed and approved that timesheet. Okay, so we recommend you to use a date after the last day you have provided that service. Like, it's not possible that you put a date prior to actually provide those services. So signature and date must be provided at the very end of the services provided. And same with the employer's signature. With your signature, you are approving that timesheet, okay? And same with the date. Please, we recommend you to fill out this section completely. Don't forget any signature, any date, otherwise your timesheet will be rejected. Okay? So the next thing that I want to cover today is some general recommendations. Remember, this is just an overview for the paper timesheet. It's really easy to fill out, but we want to make the next recommendation. Review your timesheet. Every time you've finished filling up your timesheet, please take time to review it, check it a second time, third time if it's necessarily. Review timesheet that is completely. All fields needs to be completed and legible. Time in is entered accurately for each shift. In week 1 and week 2, totals add up to the total time worked. And you can send your timesheet to Palco, and this date right here is really, really important because you have to make sure your timesheet, your paper timesheet, will be delivered to us by noon, by 12 p.m. in Central Time, every Tuesday or the Tuesday after your pay period ends. I'm going back over here real quick so you can have the visibility of the payroll payment schedule. You see, your timesheet needs to be received, or your deadline for your timesheet is every Tuesday, a Tuesday after the end of your pay period. It needs to be with us by noon, by 12 p.m. If your timesheet is submitted or received after this date, your timesheet or your payment could be delayed. So I think it's up to you, it's on you to submit your timesheet on time. That way we can process your payment with no delay. So you can send your timesheet like you can scan, you can take a good picture of your timesheet and then send it to us by email, timesheet@palcofirst.com, or you can fax that timesheet to us at to this number, or you can mail it to Palco, the snail mail. Attention to timesheet, P.O. Box 242930, Little Rock, Arkansas 72223. But if you going to select this option, like you decide to mail your timesheet, it's okay, it's fine, but you have to be aware that it takes some time to get to us. So allow us 5 business days before inquiring about your timesheet status. Okay? So that's that. Some other recommendations over here. Fill in the timesheet clearly. Your employer and Palco will need to be able to read your timesheet in order to process your time, or your payment may be delayed. Fill in all the required fields. Your timesheet will not be processed and paid unless all the fields are completed properly. Use dark ink. If you're going to, let's say, fax your timesheet, and you know, sometimes when you fax a document, sometimes it lost the quality, and sometimes it's really hard to read. So if you use a dark ink, there's more chance to read your timesheet with no issues. So make sure to use a dark ink. Use a separate timesheet for different participants. Like if you provide services for different participants, you have to use a timesheet for each participant, for each services. Or if you provide more than 2 shifts in a day, you have to use 2 timesheets. Remember, like I showed to you over here, you have the ability to enter 2 shifts in a timesheet, but if you provide 3 shifts, 3 services, 3 times in a day. So you need to use a new timesheet in order to show your third shift. Don't try to type a third shift around this, because that's a little bit confusing, because we are seeing the day in each block close to each day. So in order to avoid any problem, please try to, for a third shift, use a new timesheet. Do not use fraction of hours. Always enter your time with minutes. Let's say you have worked, I have an example over here. Let's say you have worked 35 hours with 45 minutes. This is how you need to key your total hours. 35 hours, 45 minutes, okay? This is correct, but this is not the way that you have to fill out your timesheet, like 35.75 hours. 35 hours and 70.75 of another hour, which is correct, but in your timesheet, it's incorrect. We require from you to use minutes, always minutes, 45 minutes, 35 hours, 45 minutes. Some other recommendation: if you make a mistake in your timesheet, use a new timesheet. Do not use whiteout. Okay? We don't want you to have some problems because of an alteration in your timesheet, so try to avoid that. Do not submit multiple copies of your timesheet, okay, of the same timesheet. And we have noticed this, we have seen this. Some people mail their timesheet to us, but also they faxing it to us. So we have 2 copies of the same timesheet. Or they'll email their timesheet to us and then they fax their timesheet as well. So we have more copies. So if you're going to email your timesheet, that's it. Don't fax it to us. Don't mail it to us. Just use one way for that. Okay. So, and I also want to show you some special scenarios, special situation, and that you might find, that you might see when you're going to fill your timesheet. Depends on what type of services you're going to provide and when you're going to provide those services. Okay, the first thing that we're going to see is the overnight shift. Okay, for those of you who are going to provide the hours of night support, like you might be providing services from let's say 5 p.m. through 5 a.m. That's our case, okay? So you see, you start working on Sunday and you end your shift on Monday. So there's spanning 2 days there. Your shift is crossing midnight from Sunday through Monday. So how are you going to show that in your paper timesheet? You have to do it like I'm showing it just right here. Okay, so the first part of your shift is right here from 5 p.m. to 11:59 p.m. Okay, so somebody might think right now, why are we going to use 11:59 and not midnight, like 12? It's a system characteristic, like a computer system uses dates and time in order to track numbers, and we cannot calculate total hours based on those dates and close to midnight. To avoid any issue in your timesheet, we recommend you to use 11:59. Okay? In paper timesheet, it's not really a big issue, but it is online, and I will explain to you later. Let's try to use this formatting when you want to, when you're about to fill out your timesheet. And then the rest of your timesheet is on Monday over here, from midnight through 5 a.m. So you see your whole timesheet right here. That's your whole shift, starting on Sunday spanning midnight between Sunday and Monday, and you finish your shift through Monday. So that's how you fill out your timesheet. Sometimes, too, with the same idea, people providing services, night support services, the overnight shift that crosses pay periods. Okay, let's pretend that this section right here, the first image right here, is the last date of your pay period. Okay, this is the last date of your pay period. And then your shift ends on the next, or on the first day of the next pay period, which is Sunday. So how are you going to enter that timesheet? Same as the previous one, same as the overnight shift crossing 2 days. But you have to use two timesheets here. One timesheet for the hours provided on the last date of the previous pay period, and a new timesheet for the rest of your shift for the first day of the next pay period. So this is timesheet number 1, timesheet number 2, and your shift is there completed from Saturday through Sunday. So that's your shift. Another topic that I want to cover tonight is the multiple shifts in a day. I already mentioned something about this, but probably there will be cases where a PCA, a personal care assistant, will provide more than 2 shifts in a day. Okay, so more than 1 shift in a day. How are you going to do that? You're going to complete your shift 1 right here. You see, 8 to noon, 4 hours, and your second shift 1 through 5 p.m. if that's the case. If you're going to provide a third shift, a fourth shift, or you provide more than 2 shifts in a day, remember, you have to start a new timesheet. You have to use your same information, and by that, we will understand that you are providing more than 2 shifts in a day. All right. Okay. I'm going to change my slides, and now I'm going to show you the online timesheet submission. Okay. Here we go. Online timesheet submission. Our web address is right here, https://connect.palcofirst.com. So that's the address. Okay. Submitting timesheet through the portal is the most effective way to log your time. When a timesheet is submitted online, validations occurs within seconds, and you will receive immediate confirmation of your timesheet when your timesheet has been received, notification if there's an error on your timesheet preventing submission. So I think at this point it's really, really more effective and more easy to submit your timesheet using the internet, using the portal, using the Connect application of Palco. Because, again, in the same time that you are submitting your time, our system will tell you if everything is okay, if your timesheet is okay. But if you send a paper timesheet, you might need to wait a couple of days before you get to know if your timesheet has an error or not. So we encourage you to sign up for online timesheet entry. If you want to do that, then you can just call and contact our customer service, and they will gladly tell you how to do that. Okay. I also want to mention here that we have some supported browsers for Palco Connect. To have the best experience with Palco Connect on your computer, use a supported, up-to-date browser. You'll have access to the latest features, and you'll get improve security and performance. So we recommend you to use Chrome or to use Firefox. The application also works with other browsers like Microsoft Edge. It works with that as well. It works for the browser for Apple. But there are some different browsers out there, but it doesn't work in all of them. So, but we highly recommend this Chrome and Firefox. If you don't have that in your computer, you can go to their website, download it. It's free, and you can use it. Also, if you want to use your mobile device, your phone, your cell phone, your tablet, your iPad, whatever you have, make sure you have their application as well. There's an app for Chrome, there's an app for Firefox. Make sure you have that in your phone in order to use the application. Now, how are you going to register in the portal? You will be receiving, if you are enrolling in our system, we have your email. Once you have completed all the enrollment process, all your paperwork is good, all your documentation has been submitted to us, and everything is good, then at that point, we will going to send you this notification. It's kind of like a letter or an email notification, and we call it the welcome letter notification or a good to go status notification. And it looks like just like this, same information, of course, with your name will be shown here, your PALCO ID will be shown here, and then this message, PALCO is pleased to inform you that you have completed our employee enrollment and have been issued an active good to go status effective the date of this notification. Okay, so if for some of you that you might be asking, how do I know when is my effective active date, like when I can start providing services? Just check the date of this letter, and that date will be the date when you can start providing services. If you are the member, if you are the employer and you want to know when the member will start receiving services, it's the same idea. You can go and see this date, and this date will tell you, will indicate you when you should be able to start receiving those services. Okay? So as part of this email, you will be seeing this link over here from HTTPS Connect Palco First, and a long link over here. Just use that link by doing click on it, and that link will take you to this screen on your browser. Okay, this is the first time you are trying to log in to the system to Connect application, and the way that you're going to register yourself here is just providing the PALCO ID, which is, like I mentioned before, it will be shown here. Okay, so that's what you need to do. Just key your ID. Let's pretend that your ID is 606123. Remember, your ID consists in 6 digits, PALCO ID, and then you enter your last 4 numbers of your Social Security. Just confirm that you're not a robot, and there will be some, when you do next, you will see a screen where you can confirm that you agree with our privacy policy, terms of use, and after that, then you will be able to start creating your timesheet, submitting your timesheet, and then the next it will ask you for a password, so you can create your own password and all that. Now, if for some reason you're not receiving this email or this link, then you have to contact our customer service in order for us to send you that information so you can register in the application. Online timesheet submission. what are the benefits? Immediately acknowledgement that PAC received your timesheet. Okay. By paper timesheet, again, you have to wait a few days before to being notified that we have received your timesheet. Real-time notification of any errors, like if you are trying to enter your time and for some reason it doesn't work, our system automatically tells you what's the problem. If you send a timesheet, a paper timesheet, and we process your timesheet, then you have to wait a few days before to receive a notification that your timesheet has an error or something like that. You can also have access to the latest information on the status of your timesheet and payments, like if the timesheet maybe needs a resolution, there's a problem, or your timesheet is ready to be paid, or your timesheet has been paid. Okay? And also, if you are the employer, you can use the application to easy in tracking of your worker time to make sure if your workers are submitting their time or not. Okay? So the next thing that I want to show you is the process of the submission, the timesheet submission process. Okay, so I want you to pay attention to this chart over here. We have 3 green sections here, like the employer, paper timesheet, and worker. Okay, so this is the process. The employer, if you are an employer and you have your workers, you can also have access to the Connect application, and you can enter the timesheet for your workers. Okay. In order to do that, you have to have your own email, your credentials, access to internet to submit the timesheet. But also the worker can enter their own timesheets. Okay, and the same thing. The worker should have their own credentials or emails, password. So these 2 people over here, employer and worker, they cannot share the same email or password. They have their own. They have to have their own credentials. But also, you can submit your paper timesheet to us. Okay, so let's say this one right here. Let's say the employer enters the timesheet. Okay, for their workers. Okay, so the employer, after that, when the employer or the worker can enter their timesheet daily, after a week or at the end of the pay period, it's up to you. But our recommendation is to do it daily because our system will save that timesheet in our database until you are ready to submit your time. Okay? So let's pretend that the employer enters the timesheet, and then when the employer has completed with the timesheet, the employer submits the timesheet for the worker review and approval. Okay? Using the system, the employer sends the timesheet to the worker. The worker will receive that notification because our system will send a notification to the worker saying something like, your employer has created a timesheet for you to review. Please sign in and check this date, or check this pay period, or something like that. Okay? So after that, once the worker has received that notification, the worker can log into the system and review that timesheet. If the worker sees that the timesheet has an error, he or she, the worker, can reject that timesheet, and the system will automatically send a new notification to the employer saying something like, the timesheet, your worker has rejected the timesheet, please log in and correct the timesheet. So at this point, the employer needs to log into the system again, and maybe you need to contact your worker and ask what's going on, what's the problem, why the worker decided to reject the timesheet. Maybe there's an error with the time in or time out, or who knows. So the employer corrects the timesheet, and the employer resubmits the timesheet, and the system will generate a new notification to be sent to the worker. Again, the worker, we're going to review the timesheet one more time, and then if he sees that there's still a problem, he can still reject that. And look, you can spend a whole time in this circle, back and forth between the employer and worker trying to approve their timesheet. So let's say the worker is happy with the timesheet and says, okay, everything is good. So he or she approves the timesheet, and the timesheet will be sent to us. Timesheet status will change to under PALCO review, and the timesheet will be stored in our database for us now to perform a number of validations, checkings, in order to pay your timesheet. Now, by approving your timesheet here, it doesn't necessarily mean that your timesheet will be paid. Your timesheet will be paid until the timesheet got approved based on several rules, several standard requirements by the program in this section right here. The worker can enter the timesheet as well, and it's the same idea. The worker enters the timesheet. The worker submits timesheet for employer review and approval. Notification will be sent to employer. Employer will review the timesheet whether to reject it or approve it. If the employer rejects the timesheet, a notification will be sent to the worker. The worker will correct the timesheet and returns over here. Worker submits the timesheet. A new notification will be sent to the employer. The employer reviews the timesheet. If the employer decides to approve the timesheet will be sent to us under PALCO review. And it's the same process with the paper timesheet. You send your timesheet by mail, email, by fax. We receive that. We process your timesheet. We check your timesheet to see if the timesheet meet the standard requirements. If no, we will send you a notification and ask you, please resubmit your timesheet because there's an error here or something like that. So to avoid this, please follow all the recommendation I gave you just a few minutes ago. And then if we reject your timesheet, the employer needs to correct that timesheet and resubmit it to us. And then we're going to check it one more time. If the timesheet is okay, then we're going to approve it, and then we'll be sent to under PALCO review. So that's the process. Okay? That's the process. The next thing that I want to emphasize here is the status of your timesheet. At some point, when you're going to start using our system and learn how to enter your time and understand the process, you get familiar with some words, with some expressions, especially these statuses, okay? So we're going to have the creator, which is one party. It could be the worker or the employer, okay? So the creator starts and enters the timesheet, and it could be the employer or the worker. When you open a timesheet, the status of that timesheet is opened. We call it like that, and you will see that in the system. Timesheet is opened. Only the creator can modify, can add time, can edit that timesheet, can delete that timesheet. The other party, could be the employer or worker, who did not create a timesheet, cannot do anything with the timesheet because it was opened by the other party. Okay? So the creator submits the timesheet for employer or the worker review and approval. If the worker decides to approve the timesheet, the status will be changed to timesheet on the PALCO review. If the employer or worker decides to reject the timesheet, the status will be changed to timesheet needs resolution. So you see, all the statuses mean something to you, like open, it's a new timesheet. If it's under employer or worker review, it means that the creator has sent that timesheet to the other party to be reviewed, rejected, or approved. If the timesheet is under PALCO review, it means PALCO is performing several checkings, so you have to wait until your timesheet passes all those checkings. Timesheet needs resolution. If there's something wrong with your timesheet, we will send it back to you, and you have to fix it because your timesheet needs resolution. Okay. So let me explain this really quick to you. The statuses. If you see in the application that your timesheet has an open status, the timesheet has been saved in the system but not submitted to the employer or worker for approval yet. Changes may be made to the time. Okay? So I want you to show you some screenshots. This is one of the screenshots from our application, and this is how it looks like. I'm going to show you the application in a few minutes, but I just want you to see what I'm talking about right now. So if your timesheet has an open status, this is what you're going to see. Okay? You will see the employee, the worker name, the program name, and the participant or member name. Here's where you can see the pay period and the total hours so far in your pay period. Okay? So select the timesheet. You see these numbers over here. This is the numbers that identifies your timesheet, and it says open. You see that? Okay, this is the status of your timesheet. And this is the button that we use to enter a new timesheet, and as you see here, it's blocked in a lock mode. When a timesheet is opened, you're not able to create or start a new timesheet. The next status is under employer or worker review. Time has been submitted to the employer or worker for review and approval. The party who originally entered the timesheet is unable to make changes. So let's check that. This is what you're going to see in the application. Okay? You see the timesheet number over here, and the status is under worker review, and you will see your total hours. The employer opened and submitted the timesheet for worker review and approval. The worker has been notified by an email about the timesheet awaiting for approval. The email says something like this: you have a timesheet awaiting for approval from and the date, which is the pay period. Please log in, and we're going to give you the link so you can log in to review that timesheet. And the other part of the message will be, if you do not approve your timesheet on time by the deadline, your payment will be delayed. So it's really important. Anytime you receive a notification about your timesheet, go ahead, log in, check what's going on with your timesheet. Okay? The next status is needs resolution. The employer or the worker rejects the timesheet or otherwise sends it back to the other party for correction. At this time, changes may be made to the time, and this is how it looks like. Okay? You will see your same timesheet, the number that identifies your timesheet, and the status of your timesheet, which is needs resolution from the name of the person. Okay, so this tells you that there's a problem with your timesheet and it needs to be fixed. Okay, you might need this. I want to emphasize this. You might need to contact your employer. You might need to contact your worker in order to find out what's going on with your timesheet, why your timesheet has been rejected. Once you have the agreement and to fix the timesheet, then you're going to fix it, send it back, and resubmit it. Okay, the next status is under PALCO review. Both employer and worker have reviewed and approved the timesheet. Then the status, what's going on with this status is that the timesheet will be sent to PALCO. Your timesheet will remain on this stage under PALCO review until the validation process has been performed. Once the validation process, which is basically checking that the services are correct, time in are correct, time out are correct, that there's no overlapping hours, that if there's overtime and all the rules that requires your program, your timesheet status will be changed to approved for payment after everything here happens. When you log into the system and you see this status on your timesheet, approved for payment, then be happy. That means your timesheet will be paid soon. If your timesheet fails in any area of the validation process, the employer will be notified by email, and the status will be changed to needs resolution. From this point, you can log into the system and make the necessary correction and resubmit your timesheet to PACO. Okay. Some other statuses that I want to show you really quick. Give me 1 second. Right here. Approved for payment. It means that your timesheet has passed all PACO checks and validation and is ready to be paid. If you see the status paid on your timesheet, it means your timesheet has been paid. Of course, it's closed and cannot be changed. If you see rejected, that means that your timesheet had got rejected. And if you want to correct that timesheet, you might need to create a new timesheet. If you see closed, this status means that your timesheet has been closed due to other reasons, like for Kansas, after 45 days, if the timesheet has not been processed, it needs to be closed. Unless there's a request, if you want to correct that, you have to submit a new timesheet. Okay? All right. So now I want to show you our application. Okay? So, but first, I want to give you a case, a scenario here. So let's pretend this is our group of people, okay? Member name and role. So Daniel Fuchsia is the member, and they have a start date. The start date is really, really important. I think I already mentioned this to you. Like, the start date will tell you when you should be providing or start providing services, when you should be start receiving services. Anytime you want to provide prior to this date will be rejected by our system because you're not allowed to enter time or to provide services or receive services before this date. Okay? So keep that in mind. And then in our group, we have Ronald Gray, which is the employer that represents Danielle. And we have 3 PCAs, personal care assistant, Melanie Purple, Joseph Green, and Kate Blue. As you see here, each one of them have their own email, okay? So they cannot share that. Otherwise, this process that I showed you before, this process right here, will not work because you have to have your own email in order to make it work. Okay. So I'm going to log into the system as the employer. So I'm going to use this. Okay. So this is the first screen that you're going to see, and we call this the home screen. Make sure you have your email over here or your name. This is the welcome screen. You will see some information here. From this point, you can enter and submit your timesheet. You can check the status of your timesheet. You can change your password and more. Also, we're going to use this screen to provide you some information, maybe changes in your program or anything. At some point, we will information that we think is really important to you, we will provide that here. So you have basically for you, you have two links over here. Home, this link will take you to this screen. This is what you're going to use, time entry. This is what you're going to use to enter your time. And sign out is the link that you, of course, you use to log out to the system. Okay, let's start with timesheet. Remember, I logged into the system as the employer, Randall Gray. So that's why you see the name here, hello, Randall Gray. So as the employer, I want to enter the time for one of my workers. If you have more than one worker, you will see their names over here. Okay, now you're going to select your worker. Let's say I want to enter time for Kate Blue. I select Kate Blue, and then the next screen is where you can select the pay period where you want to enter that or start that timesheet. Let's say you want to enter time in October, let's go here, November 11th. Okay, so you select that. And it takes you to this next screen. Always make sure to check the name over here just to make sure that you have selected the correct worker. Okay, and as you see, you always see the participant name or the member name over here. Here's where you can see the pay period to make sure you have selected the correct pay period. But if you notice that it's the wrong pay period, you can still change it by selecting the pay period over here. Here's where you can track the total hours for that pay period. And then the button, the blue button right here is what you can use to start entering your time. So new timesheet, click on there, and it will take you to the next screen, which is week 1 and week 2. Just if you remember the paper timesheet, it's the same idea, week 1, week 2. Okay? The idea here is that you don't have to do any calculation, just enter your time in as it is, time out as it is, and the system will calculate the totals for you. Okay? So remember, your week starts with Sunday and ends on Saturday for week 1 and week 2. You can look for your days. Let's say you want to enter time for Monday. So you choose Monday, you go here and add time, click on there, and the system will take you to the next screen. I recommend you to always check the name. Here's where you can track the total hours for the pay period. Here's where you can check the total hours for the week. Okay? Here, select authorization. Here's where you can select your authorization. So usually, you will be seeing 3 services on your application when you log in. The daily-OL is what you're going to use for time or services for night support. Okay, but that might need to be approved for your employer. Okay, so this is what you're going to use. If you are providing services during the day, you have to use this one, daily. And I think you know the meaning of IADLS, which is the instrumental activities of daily living, or just activity daily living. And the other authorization is supported employment, individual employment support services. So let's say you are providing services in the day, so you're going to select these services. Let's pretend that your time in, the start of your shift is at 8 a.m. So you're going to select here through noon, 12 p.m. Make sure that the a.m. or p.m. is marked with blue. That will tell you that you have selected the correct time, if it's a.m. or p.m. So once you have that, go ahead and click on Add Time, and the system will save that information. That's what you see here. Okay? So we see the summary. Now the system is beginning to track your total hours, as you see here. 4 hours, overtime, 0 hours. You see that you have time submitted for Monday, the service type, the start of your shift, the end of your shift, and the status of your timesheet, which is open. as you see here. Remember, open means that only the creator who is starting the timesheet can change, edit, or delete. The other party, in this case, the worker, cannot do anything, cannot change anything here. From this screen, you can perform different actions. You can edit it, like you realize that there's a problem here, that you have selected the wrong service maybe, or the start date is different, so you can edit that. Just come here and do the changes that you want, like change the services if you need to, change the time maybe, let's say to 8:30, because maybe that's the time that you actually wanted to do, to 12:30, and then just add time, and your time will be automatically updated. Okay, and you can delete that timesheet if you want to, of that entry. Just click and delete, and the system will ask you, are you sure? You can say yes, or you can cancel. Also, you can add, like we mentioned with the paper timesheet, you can add a second shift, add time to a second shift. So let's say now you start at 1 p.m., 1:30 p.m. through 5 p.m., 5:30 p.m. So you have your 8 hours during the day. So add time. So you have two shifts. Shift 1 over here, and shift 2 over here. Okay, so we have 8 hours so far, 0 hours overtime. With the overtime, I want to mention to you that even though you are allowed to enter overtime in our system, just because it's how it works, and Department of Labor requires us to track overtime, but I want you to remember that the program, Kansas program, works, doesn't allow you to be paid for overtime. Actually, you shouldn't be submitting overtime. So I encourage you, if you are the employer, to keep that in mind and remember that overtime is not allowed in this program, even though you can enter overtime. If for some reason you submit overtime, those hours will be rejected and you will not going to receive payment for that overtime. Okay. Now let's move on. Let's pretend that you have finished entering your time over here. You're going to submit that for approval by using this button, Submit for Approval. When you click there, the system will ask you, are you sure you want to submit this? You can say yes or cancel. If you say yes, the system is submitting that and creating a notification to be sent to the worker. Right now, the status changed, as you see right here. Right now, the status of your timesheet is under worker review, and it's the same thing over here, under worker review. What does that mean? It means that right now, your worker has the ability to enter in the system and review the timesheet. Okay? So I'm going to do that. I'm going to log out really quick. I'm going to sign out, and I'm going to log in as the worker. Who was the worker? Kate Blue? Okay. So after I received the notification, now I'm going to log in if the system allows me. Okay, so now I have logged into the system as the worker, and then I'm going to review my timesheet. I think we submit timesheet for November 11th, and there's my timesheet. it says under worker review. So I'm going to review. Now I can create a new timesheet. I will review my timesheet. And as you see here, I cannot do anything. I cannot change. I cannot delete. I cannot edit. It's only for me to review it, so I can check. Let's say I check my hours on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, even though we don't have anything. You see the message here, timesheet is not open, so you cannot change anything. So let's say you find out that this time right here, it's not correct. Actually, you start working at 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. So you're going to reject the timesheet by doing click here, reject timesheet, and you have to select the reason why you are rejecting that timesheet. And you can say incorrect time. So when you hit yes, the system will send a notification to the creator of the timesheet, and the status will change to needs resolution, just like you see right here. Needs resolution. Okay? Now I'm going to sign out. I just want to show you how it looks like when the worker, when the employer receives that back. Okay, so I logged in as the employer, and after I receive that email, I'm going to review that timesheet, and it says needs resolution. Okay, so what our recommendation for the employer now, when the employer sees this needs resolution, to contact your worker, or vice versa, like worker contact the employer and talk about it. What's the problem? When they see where's the problem, they can change it, they can edit it. Like, this is the creator. So because it's the creator, he can edit the time, but the worker cannot edit the time. 5 to 6 p.m. and then add time. And now the timesheet has been corrected. Now the employer, we're going to submit it again, so that way the worker can review it and whether to accept it or reject it again. So now the status changed back to under worker review. I'm going to sign out and I'm going to log in back as the worker. Kate, Lou. Okay. Hello, Kate. I'm going to review my time. 11 under worker review. I'm going to review. Oh yeah, now I can see that my time has been corrected. Now I'm going to approve my timesheet, which is, you can approve it. Now it asks you, are you sure you want to approve the timesheet? You can cancel if you're not sure. If you are totally sure, go ahead and click yes. And now the timesheet is being sent. It's being sent to Palco. The status right now is under Palco review, right here. At this point, nobody else except Palco can change that. The creator cannot edit this timesheet. The worker cannot edit this timesheet, okay, because it's under Palco review. And remember what I mentioned before. This status will remain there for a while until Palco has reviewed your timesheet, has run the validation, has run all the checks that are required in order to see if your timesheet can be paid or not. Then the status might be changed to needs resolution, okay, or that might be changed to timesheet approved for payment, okay. So that's how it works. Because of the time, I don't have enough time to show you all the errors here in the application, but I have some screenshots that I want to show you and to see all those errors. Let's go and check those really quick. Well, it's really easy to follow up with that. All the notification of errors preventing submissions. This is the errors that you might going to see in the application if you incur in any of these errors or mistakes or misunderstanding. So one of the errors is no employer established for this pay period. Okay, and it looks like this. When you want to enter the timesheet for this pay period and you can't, the system will tell you no employer established for this pay period. What's the problem? The problem is that the effective active date of the employer is October 1st, 2018. And as I mentioned before, you're not able to enter time prior to this date, October 1st. And as an example here, they are trying to enter time for June 24th. So that's not possible. The system will not allow you to do that. The other system notification error is this one: status doesn't allow entry. The participant and support service professional worker must have an active status on that specific day or pay period to allow entry. Let's see how that looks like. It looks like this. After you have selected the pay period, you might see that the status doesn't allow you to enter time. And that's due maybe because your active date is after the pay period you have selected, or the worker, in this example that I'm giving you, the worker was terminated with an effective date of 9/30. So when the worker is terminated, obviously, they cannot keep submitting timesheet after the 30th. The other error that I want to bring to your attention is this one: the start time must be less than the end time. For the same date, the shift start time must occur earlier than the end time. Like here, we have this example. Shift for Sunday, September the 2nd. The beginning of the shift is midnight a.m. through noon, 12 p.m. But the user made a mistake here and didn't change to p.m. The system will not allow you to enter that because the start time must be less. It always needs to be prior to the end time. Okay? So you have to fix that in order to submit your time. The other error that I want you to show is the regular hours for the week exceeded 40. Must have regular hours less or equal to 40. If you reach 40 and you still need to enter more time, you must start submitting overtime beyond that. But like I mentioned before, there are certain rules related to that in your situation, so you might not be allowed to submit overtime. The other error that I want to bring to your attention is the overlaps with a service type description entry occurring between the time, certain time. Worker cannot overlap time and service with himself with another entry on the same day. Let's see that. Let's say the worker Henry provided 2 different services on Sunday, September 30th. He provided supported employment and daily instrumental activities. Okay, the first services was from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. and the second one he's trying to enter 9:30 a.m. to 11:30. As you see here, there's a 30 minutes overlapping there. The system will detect that and will tell you that the second entry is not good and it cannot be entered. The system will not allow the second entry or the second time service to be entered, and you will see this error. Overlaps with the name of the services and this time. So you have to change that. So make sure you are selecting the correct start time and correct end time. The last one that I want to show you is the overlaps with another worker. Okay, let's see that. 2 workers work in the same day, but for some reason their services or time are overlapping. and that's not authorized unless you have an authorization from your employer. Okay, so let's say the first worker is the first entry is from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. and the second entry is from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. So this is the first worker. The first worker, because the first worker enters the time first, the system will accept that. But the second entry will be rejected because there's an overlapping from 9 to 10. And the system will tell you that. Overlaps, or your time is overlapping with another worker with an entry occurring between, and it tells you the time. Okay? So you might not know, the system will not tell you who is that person, with who your time is overlapping. You might need to contact your employer and figure that out, like why my time is overlapping with someone else. So your employer needs to manage that, need to control that in order to for you to not overlapping with anybody. All right, the last thing that I want to mention here is that all these instructions, all this information that I have provided you today, it's in our website. We also we are recording this presentation, so you are going to have all this information available to you, and whenever you're going to start submitting your timesheet, you can use this information to help you out. And as we mentioned before, if there's any question, you can contact our customer service support. They will gladly help you to enter your time if you need to.